What'd you say, Mom? Mom, 4 teaspoons of sugar.
Don't forget.
This is it?
I started making gefilte fish about 45 years ago when my grandmother's one was not alive anymore and the other one stopped preparing gefilte fish. And so I took over the tradition of making gefilte fish. When I first began, I made it with my mother. I began making it and I combined the recipes of both grandmothers. Now, neither one of them had the recipes written down, but I had watched both of them make it. One added sugar to the broth, the other one added the onion skins to give it a golden flavor.
So the history of gefilte fish is rather interesting. Historically, when you convert the word fish in Hebrew numerically, it converts to the number 7. And 7 is considered a holy number because we have 7 days in the week. And on the 7th day, everyone rested. So traditionally, it was the norm for Jews to eat fish on the Sabbath, on Friday night. Unfortunately, for many, many generations, it was cost prohibitive for a mother to feed her entire family with fish, with fresh fish. So what the women started to do was to think outside of the box, and they started to create stuffed fish. And gefilte is actually Yiddish for stuffed. So when we talk about gefilte fish, we're really talking about stuffed fish. And what the women would do over the years is they used to grind not only the meaty part of the fish, but also the skin and bones, or parts of the skin and bones, the flesh inside. So they would take it all outside, keep the skin intact, grind it all up together, and then as filler, they would mix it with some less expensive ingredients like bread, eggs, onions, things like that. And then they would restuff the entire skin of the fish with the ingredients and bake it or boil it. Over the years, the women finally said, why are we restuffing the fish? And they started to make it the way that we do now, akin to a meatball. So that is the history of gefilte fish. And then when you look at how it came over from Eastern Europe, it was very popular in Poland to have a sweetness to the fish. They would add a lot of sugar. And then the Lithuanians would eat it with pepper and horseradish. So we are Eastern European Jews from a mix of different places. We do a combination. And then when you look at modern life today, one of my mom's favorite stories is about the famous architect Frank Gehry, who designed Millennium Park. What's the name of the place in Bilbao?
Oh, Bilbao. The museum.
The Museum of Art in Bilbao, Spain. And Frank Gehry, also known as Frank Goldberg, he grew up with extraordinary memories of his grandmother making fish. And she did it the old school way. So instead of her husband, like my dad, going to the store and picking up the fish, they would have a fresh carp swimming in the bathtub. And a lot of Gary's designs with the silver, the aluminum look and the scales that you'll see all over his designs were really inspired by memories of his grandmother having the carp swimming around in the bathtub just before she would make her own gefilte fish. history of the fish. Back in the day, how did Duns make the fish?
It was a real project. We used to buy the whole fish, and she would debone it, take the fish, grind it, and it really was an ordeal. Sometimes you couldn't step into the house for days. The aroma was so overpowering. And then progress occurred. She bought the fish already filleted, without the bones and without the skin, and she ground it. Then she found a source, or we found a source, that grinds the fish. We've advanced so that our renowned supplier provides packages of 4 pounds fish ground. Every year, when I ask her how many pounds net, that's without the bones and the skin and the head, she's getting, the number always is quite high. I try and modify it to a lower level, but it's difficult. In addition, everyone says, why is she still making the fish? But yet all those individuals still want some.
Is the broth. The broth has to be very rich because the fish is boiling in it and cooking up it and taking in all of the juices. So in my broth, I use onions that are cut. One of my grandmothers kept the brown skin on the onions to give the fish a pretty color, to make it a little golden. So I do that. I used to just use sweet potatoes, but now I use sweet potatoes, and when I can get the Japanese sweet potatoes, I use those too because they're extra sweet. Parsnips, celery, and our latest addition to the fish in the last 3 years was I was introduced, my son Rod introduced me to kombu. And kombu is an umami, and it's the secret ingredient of famous chefs.
So yeah, I introduced my mom to it about maybe 6 years ago, and this is a wild kombu from Japan, extremely rare. There's a shortage right now in the market, and it's almost impossible to get. And the funniest part of this whole conversation is that I mentioned to a number of chefs, you know, my mom uses kombu in her chicken soup. She used it in a lot of preparations. They go, oh my God, I didn't know your mom was Japanese. Where's she from in Japan? I'm like, my mom's not Japanese, but she's an amazing and innovative, cook in the kitchen, and she makes magic happen, and anything I give to her, she puts into motion. But this is the highest umami content of anything in the world. Parmesan is like a 15 or 1600 points on the umami scale. This is like 2200, and it gives you that kind of like savory effect, but it's just natural seaweed that divers pick off the shores of Hokkaido. So, we brought it into this amazing tradition, and, the Dons put it into action, and we love her fish.
And then you use pepper, salt, and I sugar the broth. So you can use sugar, stevia, or any artificial sweetener that you want to taste. But you want it to have a very rich, flavorful broth. If you don't have sweet potatoes, you can use carrots, of course. And if you don't have celery, you can use parsley.
gefilte fish together stays together.
Bubby used to put the skin of the onion in there for color, not for anything but color.
Oh my God, it's delicious.
And it's delicious and it looks
Oh my
just
God,
like
is it
Bubby's.
good?
So
This
you
is
know
the-
what? It tastes good too.
Outstanding. It does look like Bubby's
It looks-
fish. Oh my God, it's like so different from last year. I love it.
It was all, I didn't put the skin in last year.
Donna,
But this year I said, you
this
know what, I'm
is-
gonna try. I'm gonna try. Make it a little
Why
different.
not make
Make
it
a
like
little
Bubby's
Bubby's
fish? I
Yeah,
like
make it a
that.
little bit
Keep
different.
the, you know,
Keep
the
your-
door for door, generation to generation. Oh, Don, it's delicious. I love it.
Sherry
Give it
only
back
comes
you.
to eat
I only come to eat. I'm not good at making fish.
because she can't stand the smell.
I can't handle the smell of the fish.
Oh
it's
my
very
God.
difficult for me, but it doesn't smell today. Usually, they make popcorn.
Oh yeah, I
But
used
for
to get-
some reason,
I get a popcorn machine.
Yeah,
in
she
the
had a
kitchen.
popcorn machine, but now
I had a popcorn machine in the
she's
kitchen.
got it together that she boils the fish and makes it in the barbecue outside. I think she does that for her sister, Baruch Hashem. So thanks, Don.
You're welcome.
Mwah!
I
What
love
would
you.
we do without your delicious gefilte? I've already gotten phone calls this morning. I got a phone call. Is Donna making her fish? Can I pick it up? Da 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 da. Do you think she's making enough for me? What do you think? What do you think? I said, no problem.
Sure, she says no problem.
No problem. No problem. Whatever you want.
No problem.
Don's will do
That's
it. And then I call her, Don, are you making enough? We got a routine.
We
Thank
have
you.
a routine. We
Great,
have a whole routine.
great stuff.
We're almost finished.
So we make our horseradish with a combination of sweet and hot. We take homemade ground beets, grate them like you would with a cheese grater, mix it with horseradish, some lemon juice, some sugar or Splenda, or even stevia if you want, and a little salt and pepper. And then we make a sweet version, and then for Cousin Brad, a hot version. I love this one too. And the sweet and the hot with the fish is amazing.